the digital ecosystem, and you probably have heard that word in regards to more to a digital landscape or architecture within a web browser or a set of computer systems. So you have a website, you have social, you have maybe a client portfolio or a client platform, those kinds of things. What we're talking about is the ecosystem, the environment around us. So it's a physical space, mixing technology to make our lives better. So why is this important? Because it's ultimately completely changing the landscape of technology. This is really the new frontier. I've got a new frontier up here just because I think that really is kind of one of the next big potentials into the technology space. Can somebody shut the door back there just so we can? Thanks. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'm a dad, first and foremost. This is my little girl. She is about 18 months, and if there are any parents in the room, you know that this is now your new identity. So, picture of her instead of a picture of me. When I'm not busy doing that, I would consider myself a digital strategist. So I'm focusing on the entire digital environment, whether it's in the physical space or in the digital space. I've been working at Blue Earth for 14 years. Started out as a print designer, moved into web design, moved into development, was heavy in Flash and Director, if anybody remembers that name. Back in the old days, moved into more development, a lot of object-oriented ActionScript back in the old days. And then as we grew the company from 3 of us, I moved into more leadership management roles, to directing the interactive component of the business, and then ultimately to Chief Development Officer and President of the company. Things I do in my spare time, which is completely non-existent at this point, is woodworking, brewing, and photography. So I really have kind of that creative angle and always try to play around with those types of things. And now just getting really interested in this digital space of how I might be able to interact with some of those hobbies in the digital space. And I'll kind of talk about some of those things as we move along here. So I want to talk a little bit about the flow of the presentation. I'm a very visual speaker, so I spend a lot of time digging through and finding photography on the interwebs so that I can try to present some sort of visual concept to everybody. I'm assuming a pretty cursory level of understanding of technical knowledge. We're not going to get deep into anything. We're not walking through any code or getting too crazy deep. We're really talking high level. What are the opportunities? What are people doing in this space? And then if anybody else has any input on that, I'd love to hear it. Definitely raise your hand. A lot of you are definitely going to be smarter than I am, so I'd like to have this as an interactive conversation, not just me up here chit-chatting. So it'd definitely be interactive in terms of the flow of the presentation. So ultimately, why are we here? I'm here to inform and inspire. You guys are here because you have some sort of interest in this space, this digital ecosystem that we're talking about, the physical environment around us and how we can interact with it in terms of digital space. The whole conference, we're here to collaborate, to network, to build on ideas, to share ideas, to take other ideas, and then build something on top of those. If you all go away with do one single thing, whether that's do a Google search, try something out on some cool new technology, I will feel completely awesome. So the takeaways, what are we basically talking about? 3 main components. We're really talking about the evolution of needs. How have needs evolved from the dark ages before mobile? How has technology satisfied them? How is it continuing to satisfy them as this industry continues to evolve? Really kind of figuring out what are people doing in this space right now that are really changing the landscape of what our lives are going to look like in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, et cetera. And then we're going to kind of take a real cursory look at what are the technologies that are doing that? What are the things that you guys can look further into? How can you engage with other folks, talk about ideas, go look something up on the internet, go go buy an Arduino case or something to get involved. And if you take anything away from this presentation, these are the three things I'm trying to get across. So we're going to start out with the evolution of needs. So of course, needs continue to evolve. As technologies come online, it gives us ideas about things we never knew were possible, and suddenly we just need all these things. So we see this in developing countries, developed countries, in the States, of course. America is more, need more of everything, more time, more, et cetera. In evolving countries, a lot of interesting things going on in Africa, for instance, where they're kind of leapfrogging us, but their needs continue to evolve. It's happening all over the world. As users become more sophisticated, those needs become more sophisticated and compounding. We just need more and more of everything. So has anybody seen the Louis C.K. bit where he talks about the guy pissed off next to him because he can't download data fast enough? And he looks at him and he says, Jesus, man, it's going into space. Like just somebody not understanding what actually has to happen in the transaction to download some data, and just the evolution of what happened inside of such a small amount of years. That evolution of needs is, we all kind of take that stuff for granted, what actually happens with the technologies, because we've hit such a breakneck curve in the evolution of technology. So these needs continually evolve. It's pretty amazing to think of what I need now versus what I thought I needed 5 years ago. So 10 years ago, this is how we used to communicate. There was no smartphones. We used to talk into a can to try to communicate with people. The skies were black, terror reigned free, if only somebody was there to save us. June 29, 2007. Can anybody tell from the picture what happened on that date? The iPhone was released. And this was really a pretty extraordinary step. And previously there was the iPod changed the music industry. Of course, there were lots of phones out there. There were Blackberries. There were lots of different communication devices. But some folks in California decided to completely destroy our concept of what a personal computer is. That personal computer is this thing that you go to on your desk, even a laptop, but you have to carry this thing around, somewhat substantial. It's got a lot of computing power, but it's not something I'm going to literally keep on my person 24 hours a day. They completely blew the doors off of that. They created a vessel, an OS, something that we can create new tools to interact with everything around us. And it really was a game changer across the board of what's going to happen with technology in the future. So needs, the key to starting a business, the key to doing something unique, standing out, is to understand human needs. What do you folks need? At this point, what do you guys want more of? Whether it's from a technology perspective, time, anything, a voice. We all want a big microphone. We all want social media. We all want to be important, so we tell the world what we're doing in the backyard on Saturday on Facebook or Twitter. We all try to project ourselves into this new space. We didn't really know we could do that 10 years ago. So these needs continue to evolve, really opening problems we never knew we had. So creative expression. Technology allows us to be much more creative these days than we could in the past. It has allowed us to, again, project, to advertise, to create new and different ways. It allows me to do woodworking today differently than I might have done 10 years ago, to interact with a presentation. I'm communicating with my laptop right now, to build a creative expression to you guys through some technologies that weren't available that long ago. Everybody wants more time. Everybody wants more autonomy. As we have this phone and we can do X, Y, and Z, we all get pissed off if we can't connect to the Wi-Fi, to the internet, to get things faster. So time and speed are a huge component to this. Expert opinion, we all want easier access to information. The passive media age is dwindling as on-demand Netflix gives us access to any information. We want instant gratification. We want 24-hour access to anything, to these experts, to entertainment, to each other. All of these needs are compounding. They seem to be getting more and more every day. In business, we want some sort of a competitive advantage. How can digital, how can technology really help give us that competitive advantage in terms of me as a person, in terms of my business, any of it? We all have these compounding needs, efficiency, the list goes on and on. So here we are in the digital ecosystem. For 7 years, these technologies, the phones, keep evolving. Our expectations continue to evolve. We need more things. These technologies come available. We can solve new problems. It really kind of creates this new frontier for us. And really what has been the main new evolution is now that we can communicate with everything around us. So we're going to talk about what technology is satisfying these needs. And we're going to do that in a couple of different ways. We're going to throw out lots of buzzwords, right? That's got to be the first and foremost thing. We're going to talk about, we can talk about M-commerce and M2M and telematics, all of that. We'll talk about ways that some industry players are evolving their businesses, like healthcare or transportation. We're going to start out with the Internet of Things. So this is continuing to evolve the way that I can interact with my home or other components out there. It really is rewriting the rules of product design, where you can't just build a refrigerator anymore and throw some technology on it at the last minute. You have to start with the technology. How is somebody going to interact with your home security system? How are they going to interact with their television? How are they going to interact with their refrigerator? So one thing that I need is I'm in a grocery store and I have no idea what the hell to get because I forgot to make a list, and that's just what I do. So I need to figure out what is in my fridge, what is not in my fridge. So I feel very strongly about this, the ability for me to check what is in my fridge from the grocery store. Anybody else want this technology? Be kind of cool, right? So you can see what's going on at your house. So I would love this to happen. I'm sure that there are 25 refrigerator manufacturers right now that have this idea going. I'm sure you can buy a $10,000 refrigerator that will tell you anything and everything that's going on in your fridge right now. With things like inventory, it knows how much milk you have. It knows all of those things, but it's going to make my life easier. It's going to make my life more efficient because like recipe apps is another great one. I know what I need in a recipe so that I don't have to go back to the store 4 times. Happens all the time. I'm a brewer. I have 5 taps in my basement. The one thing I want access to is I want to know what's going on with the kegs in my basement. I had this brilliant idea probably about 8 weeks ago. And I thought, well, what would be really nice is for me to know what's in my kegs, what is the air pressure in my kegs, because I always have problems with CO2 carbonation, and you know, what's the temperature? All of the real critical factors of having kegs at your house. So I thought, well, I'm going to go buy some cool components, Arduino or whatever, and really started building up kind of this whole business concept around it. And then 10 minutes later, I went online and found some dude did every single thing that I just did. Really pissed me off. I hate when that happens. And then I thought, well, how much does this cost? Because I have to buy one. So he did the exact same thing. He went out and he bought a bunch of components, and he wired this thing up to check CO2, to check on volume, to check weight, to check temperature, all of that stuff. But he could be at a bar with his buddies, and he can log into his phone, and he can tell you everything that's on tap at home, how much of it. He even had visual recognition for everybody that came up to the keg and poured one, so you know when your buddy is completely destroying your kegs, and you can call him out on it. You can take a picture, and you can email it to all your friends and say, this guy is completely draining my beer supply. So the Internet of Things is going to change everything. And how we interact. It's going to, again, look at those needs. It's going to create efficiencies. It's going to give us more time. It's going to give us more creative expression. It's going to give us a ton of different things. Internet of Things is definitely changing a lot. Wearables, big buzzword right now. It was one of the strongest categories at South by Southwest 2014 and CES. Everybody's talking about wearables of some form or another. Google Glass, everybody laughs at it. Jawbone, Fuel Band in wellness technologies. I think earbuds at some point, in terms of delivering information to me and still not look like that guy wearing Google Glass, I think there's some opportunities there. But wearables is definitely a big category right now. Robotics. Robotics is also changing things. So drones, and we're not just talking about the military, who is definitely one of the pioneering industries in the robotics space. But drones can also be used for going places that we don't need to go. Places that are dangerous, things that are mundane jobs that we don't necessarily want to do. You throw a camera on one of these things and you can kind of go find anything, anywhere, anytime. And you can really help, again, build efficiency. And you can control one of these things on your iPhone or on an iPad. A lot of different ways that you can use robotics to enhance some form of life. Biointerfaces. I saw an interesting presentation on a guy that had a stroke in his 40s. And was able to, through a collaborative of people, basically create a biointerface, a robot, so that he could go and do normal things again. He was a paraplegic. He could basically just move his head. But healthcare technologies and robotics are coming along so far that he was able to enjoy some of those things in life, again, through robotic interfaces. Some really interesting stuff. Nano technologies are also completely fascinating. So you may have heard concerns about the planet. What's going to happen when all the bees are gone? What's going to happen when we can't pollinate and build, do things with crops? All that kind of stuff. Nano technologies are kind of trying to get ahead of some of those problems. I heard a great article on NPR. They were talking about how termites really get into this kind of cohesive mentality to do things like build big constructs, that kind of stuff. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to work with these really, really small robotic interfaces to somehow get all of those independents to think as a team, as a collaborative, so that we can figure out how to solve the bee problem if someday there aren't any bees around anymore. In medical, they're making really, really, really small things that we can't see. There are initiatives to build robotic interfaces or things we can barely even see to go in and help fight cancer, cure cancer through injecting a bunch of these nanotechnologies into the bloodstream. So there's a lot of really crazy stuff happening in there. Some industry examples. How are industries using these technologies? And these are just a few examples. There are millions of examples of what is happening in industry and technology. So I'm going to give a few. If anybody has any interesting stories, if anybody has any other interesting ideas on how industry is changing things, definitely raise your hand. Transportation. Has anybody been in a Tesla? They are fucking awesome. There are no buttons in a Tesla. Everything is a digital interface. And I think, I don't know if it's happening now, but the plan is to run on Android at some point. Super, super cool stuff. And this is really kind of that evolution of technology in regards to transportation. Telematics is the buzzword there. Self-driving cars. I was on my way here this morning, and self-driving cars, a brilliant guy doing a TED Talk, was talking about how self-driving cars in the next 10 to 20 years are going to completely reshape our cities, our landscapes, give us more time. Google's behind it because they want to give you more time to Google. And all of these other, Tesla I'm sure is going to be one of those on the forefront of making this happen, but the amount of deaths that it would decrease due to auto accidents, the efficiencies that will come with that. Transportation is really one of the big Wild West areas. The GPS that we can do today, the voice recognition, the ability for me to do something in my car and to interact with that, you see these things evolving every single day. A lot of really cool stuff happening in transportation. Retail I see as one of the biggest things, especially as we're at a retailer. Mobile wallets continue to kind of try to figure their way out. Wayfinding, I think, is a great thing. Some form of dial an expert and self-checkout, and I'll give you an example. So I do some woodworking, and I walk into Menards, and I can't find somebody that has any idea what's going on. I'm looking for some pretty obscure stuff. So I say, where are the hanger bolts? And they say, what's a hanger bolt? So I'm like, okay, well, I can't really rely on you right now. I want to pull out my phone and Amazon this shit. I mean, it's super frustrating that I can't just go and find something. So this is a need that I have. 10 years ago, I had no idea that this need was even possible, that there would be a technology that would allow me to actually dare to dream about walking into a Menards and finding what the hell I want. It's pretty amazing, right? So I'm sure Walmart, I'm sure Best Buy, I'm sure everybody and their grandma is working on building this technology. And this is where the evolution of technology, so that I came up with this idea a couple of years ago. And I was looking around and trying to find what are the different ways that we can interact, what are the different technologies that I could use to go start a company with this kind of technology. And it was just coming online. So you have GPS. GPS gives you a lot of opportunities when you're out cruising around, gives you rough location for where you're at, not going to be accurate enough to show me where exactly the hanger bolts are in this particular row at Menards. So I looked at Wi-Fi positioning. So there again, you throw a bunch of Wi-Fi transmitters out there, they all figure out where you are in relation to everything else. So you get a little bit more granular location specs. That stuff is, again, continuing to evolve. Beacon technologies are one of the big ones that have an opportunity there. So I walk in, I want to find something, I use beacon technologies, I use Wi-Fi positioning, it's going to help me find something. And then Home Depot, they know a little bit more what's going on. They have some old contractors that can actually help you with something. But there again, I find the hanger bolts, and I don't necessarily know the right hanger bolts to hang a 2x6. So there again, I want some sort of expert opinion. And a lot of these stores aren't going to necessarily have that. But as we see those people come in and out of these retailers, right now Best Buy's got a bunch of people there. They may or may not be there 10 years from now. But if you can somehow capture expertise, and I go there, and that retailer is able to connect with me because I need that expertise at that particular moment, that is a relationship. I will go back there. If somebody can tell me what I need and help guide me through that store, find what I need, and ideally do some sort of a self-checkout. Again, as I'm walking through Menards, I just want to scan this thing and walk out the door. I don't want to deal with lines. All of that stuff is happening. Probably the next 5 or 10 years, it's moving in that direction. Healthcare, another big potential area here. So one of the few uses for Google Glass at this point is for doctors. Doctors have their hands busy, and they need to be able to access information. They need to be able to take pictures. They need to train others on videos. So right now, everybody's trying to figure out what the hell Google Glass is going to do. Well, it's working right now in professional services where you can't use your hands to do some other things. You can talk, you can take pictures, you can take video, you can interface in some form or another. So Google Glass is a great example of where healthcare is really changing. Biointerfaces that I mentioned earlier, implantable devices allowing us to regrow things that weren't there before or somehow interact. You've got implantable chips. A lot of crazy things going on in healthcare. Agriculture was kind of a fascinating area. I was at a conference, an MHTA conference, and there's somebody from Land O'Lakes there talking about the things that they're doing in agriculture. And it's fascinating because this is all very rural stuff. These people are not in any big cities, but they're doing some pretty interesting things with technologies. A lot of those tractors, a lot of those farms are running off of this. So they jump in to their tractor and they're controlling all of their stuff on an iPad. Pretty amazing stuff. GPS is allowing them to talk with each other and find out where are things like irrigation going to be best placed. Where are the right places that they should plant a specific crop based on soil samples, all of that stuff. Big data, in this case, is really helping farmers become efficient and try to mitigate some of the risks involved in farming, which, as we've seen here in Minnesota in the past few years, are pretty great. Consumer goods. Has anybody seen these tiles? Does anybody have one? You ordered one? Yeah, you're on the list. They look pretty interesting. How many people here lose their keys at least once a week? Thanks to my daughter, that's happening a lot more these days. So, tile, I want, again, pull up my phone. Why can't I just find my keys based on some sort of wayfinding, some sort of local positioning system? Tile's doing a pretty interesting thing with their consumer goods there. Wearables, Nike Fuel Band, Pebble, all of these new ones, Jawbone, the iWatch, whenever the hell that comes out. Bluetooth speakers are really cool, that I can just get a speaker, fire up my phone from wherever in the house, and then it can actually even track me room to room, and I can be playing on different speakers. A lot of cool stuff there. Credit cards, coin, seems like it's pretty interesting. I don't have to carry around 10 credit cards anymore. I can just swipe through my single credit card. But again, if we think about user needs, one of those technologies is going to create more impact somewhere else. So I've got coin. Well, coin is going to change things in terms of privacy and security. So one of the other big topics at South by Southwest this year, privacy. Huge issue. You've got the NSA, you've got all these other things going on. I give out more of my information. I sign everything away on the dotted line when I sign up for Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Privacy is kind of a big thing, especially when we get into financials, things like coin, what's happening with all my data for my Nike Fuel Band, how are they going to use it? Evolution of needs as those technologies change. Any questions so far? Examples? So what technologies are driving this change? There are literally thousands. Everything changes every day. Somebody here in this room is going to change something in some form or another. They're going to come up with a great idea, start a new language, a new platform, a new interface, API, whatever, physical device. Some of these technologies are using and based on old technologies like C or C++. And some of them are breaking ground and building whole new languages, APIs, interfaces, etc. First and foremost, the most overused word in the English language is the cloud. iCloud, Microsoft Azure, Amazon. The cloud is just, it's the new hotness for the past few years. It's a never-ending storage unit. So in terms of all of these things, big data, whether it's somebody in a field gathering information, all of this information has to go somewhere. It's all getting stored in the cloud because I no longer carry around my laptop to do all of these different things. I need it to go somewhere. I don't have never-ending storage in my local devices. So technology keeps getting smaller, data needs keep getting bigger, so the cloud really solves a lot of those problems. This is the new computer. This is the mothership of where this information is going, how it's interacting. So beacon technology. I walk into that Menards, and this is my computer. It's right here. I carry this thing on me 24 hours a day. It notifies me of anything that I don't need to be notified about. It is part of me at this point. It is really kind of one of the big things that Apple and Google have really figured out, is really gives me all of this utility. I live and breathe this thing. So it's the hub of our spoke with all of these different technologies around us. I can be in the center of this room and I can bounce signals off of anything else. So these are evolutions of technologies that have always been there. But really we're glued to our phone. This is the new computer. It's connecting with the cloud, of course, because it only has so much data it can put on the phone itself. Bluetooth low energy. New technology that's really changing things in terms of like the beacon technology. So you walk into retailers, some probably already have this stuff out there where you walk up to something and then you're going to get information on that phone. You might be able to reach out to an expert someday. But this is a connection. It is a change. It is something that is really disruptive. With GPS, again, we know where you are in the planet. With more refined technologies like beacon, with Bluetooth low energy, Wi-Fi positioning, we know exactly where you are in relation to something else. It's really a proximity technology. Again, game changer in retail and in several other industries. RFID, doing similar thing, really. It's about whether it's passive or active, it's providing some sort of value to be able to track things. It's been used for years, but people are thinking about different ways that they can interact with it. Wi-Fi, been around for a long time. It's enabling me to communicate with my laptop right now, and kind of more as a remote, notes, etc. But people are changing the way that they're interfacing with this. Like I said, Wi-Fi positioning systems, those things continue to evolve, and they might help with some of the interactions of the digital ecosystem, everything that's around me. It has to go through some form, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, some other communication vehicles that are going to be involved in this process of building out that ecosystem. APIs, the digital glue between everything. Everybody's got the problem, whether at your company, your clients, proprietary systems are kind of going away because open APIs are allowing the world to connect through things that they do particularly well. So Salesforce might be great at CRM, but they're going to suck at something else. So give me an open API, and that's really one of the big things that's allowing them to do their thing. So one of the big movements that's going to happen is that, going back to my Menards reference, the real value for Best Buy, for Target, for Menards, is not just the fact that you're going to create value for me, the consumer, but you have every specific thing I've done in interacting with that. You have data on all of that. So you can then interact with me differently. Cartwheel is a great example of Target's first shot at really doing this. It knows what I'm buying, so it's tracking that information. It's going to offer things up to me. If I'm at Target and I need baby food, and I happen to walk past something, and it happens to be on my list, this thing's going to notify me and say, hey, by the way, we'll give you an extra 10% off on baby food if you get it right now at this end cap. So those technologies are going to be changing. But again, big data, all of that stuff's going to go somewhere. Has to be in some sort of an API. CRMs are at the heart of everything that is happening these days. Salesforce has an open API. They know this, so they're just going to say, hey, come throw all your data in here. You build out whatever you want. You build out whatever mobile app you want, connect to our APIs, and then we'll store all that information. API is really kind of a really important thing. It's all about collaboration, communication, a lot of frameworks out there, a lot of APIs. Things like Smart Things, if you've heard of that, different ways to interact with things around you. Arduino, Raspberry Pi, BeagleBone Black, I don't know tons about this, but I do have a fancy brand new Arduino kit over there if anybody wants to come check it out. And again, I haven't touched it. Everything is in the static bags. But I figure it's a pretty cool area. So if I want to build my kegerator system to really check all of that stuff, I'm going to probably start with something like Arduino or Raspberry Pi. These are really kind of changing things. They're on Amazon. I think that the starter kit for Arduino is like $95 or something. But this is kind of one of those things that you can really get started on building something cool. Digging into the technologies, there's a whole starter kit of different projects that you can do to understand how to use this thing. But definitely Arduino is one of those areas. 3D printing is really another booming industry. A lot of cool stuff going on here because it allows us, again, for that need, that creative expression, that autonomy, that ability for me to go and create something pretty cool, pretty unique. And then I have things like Arduino where I can just go and grab the electronics. So I can go send something to a 3D printer that 10 years ago might have cost $20,000 to put a proof of concept together. And I can go to one of the local companies in town that has a 3D printer and say, I have $3,000. I want you to come up with some cool new product idea. And I'll just give you the shell. I'll put together the Arduino stuff. And I'll get a new product out in the market and really start testing. Get an MVP out there and see if this thing's going to go anywhere. I have the lens there because I was looking at things that you can create with a 3D printer. You can create an SLR lens with a 3D printer at this point, using different type of optics or different types of plastics for the glass instead, which is some pretty awesome stuff. So 3D printing is definitely one of those things that there's going to be more and more of them in houses. It's going to give us access to create new cool stuff and help us innovate. with the digital environment, the digital ecosystem. So I've got some links here. I'm going to post this on my blog so that everybody has access to this. It'll just be a PDF. So there's a few places that I went online that have a lot of really cool information on just the basics, right? So you've got Arduino, introduction. Instructables has a lot of cool stuff, whether it's Arduino or things like comparing Raspberry Pi, BeagleBone Black, Android, or Arduino. Half the battle is just figuring out which one of these you're interested in using, which one you think you can get into most of, or leverage the existing knowledge that you guys have. Internet of Things, pretty much you can do anything you want on Google at this point. So it's all out there. Here's just a few links. The biggest thing I would do is just, if you're interested in building something, is just to go Google it and see what's out there. So again, overall, looking at everything that we're talking about here, we have the evolution of needs. Going back from the real dark ages, things changed. Technologies came online, allowed people to interact in different ways. And then once that technology came online, they started bringing up new ideas, new needs. I need this thing. So where we are now in this kind of breakneck curve in terms of the technology advances is that the phone really has opened up a whole new space for ways for me to interact with my environment, whether it's pulling out my phone right now and telling you what's going on with my taps at home, or what's in my fridge, or going up to display at Best Buy and having this give me more information and allow me to connect with an expert. There's a lot of different things that are really happening out there, but these needs continue to evolve. And whether you're starting a business tomorrow, you have a great idea, or you just want to do something really interesting and really cool, understanding what those needs are of people today and trying to predict what the needs are of those people in 5 years is really going to help you build something really cool. What technologies, understanding what people are doing, standing on the shoulders of giants, these people that have come before you and built really cool, really awesome things that are super sophisticated, and you can take that and you can leverage that to go and building something yourself. So understanding what technologies are out there, who's creating what are the needs in healthcare, what's agriculture doing right now, what are your interests in those, and that's, again, all this stuff is available on the internet. And then what technologies, I gave you a handful. There are thousands of others that are actually doing all of this, but thinking about what you need, what you would like to see, asking your friends, having a conversation about what kind of things would you like to see, getting inspired, getting excited about doing something. A lot of opportunity there. Some photo credits. If anybody's interested, there's these are all free photographs that I found. Here's some references to them, but if you're interested in finding some free shots, you can definitely let me know. I'll tell you where I found them. Questions, discussion. Anybody have a question or some cool ideas?
Sorry, I arrived late, so you may have mentioned it, but did you mention anything about home automation, home security? Because I think that's kind of a real booming area that has a lot of potential.
I didn't. I guess I was kind of putting that under the whole Internet of Things, but yeah, for sure. Especially, I think there's some companies in town that are doing a lot of really smart things. And then that, again, to think about needs, 3 years ago, nobody even was really thinking about, like, you know, the majority weren't thinking, oh, I can do something really cool with my phone. I can check on this. I can be alerted when that happens, whatever. Buddy of mine was interested in when the mail came. So I think he got an Arduino and hooked it up to his mailbox. So it notified him when his mail came. I mean, just stupid shit, right? That's just how these things start. And then somebody's like, oh, wow, that's cool. So the need is now security, privacy, right? These things are wide open. Somebody can hack in and change your shades or turn your lights on, or, you know, some of those kinds of things. So as those technologies become available, those needs continue to evolve. So yeah, home automation, home security, those things are definitely exactly what we're talking about. Questions?
So a lot of these technologies look like to interact with the world, they need to know where they are. So if you're outside, you have GPS.
Yep.
But if you're inside, if you're in a mall or on a factory floor, it's harder. Is there anything coming up? And there's lots of possible ways to solve that problem. Is there anything that you see coming down the pipe that's going to be like the GPS that's ubiquitous
Well, I mean, you have to think in terms of proximity. So layers of proximity, right? You have GPS. I'm out in the open. You know where I am within 8 to 20 meters or whatever the hell it is. You want a little bit more refined. You might think of something like Wi-Fi positioning system. Again, GPS is basically satellites triangulating where you are in a physical space. Wi-Fi is going to basically do the exact same thing. So you throw 3 Wi-Fi hotspots in this room and then connect it to my phone, you're going to know roughly where I am, maybe within a foot, maybe within inches. And then you've got NFC, near field communication, which is super, super fine. So each of those technologies are kind of available, and kind of like HTML5, it's going to be awesome someday, right? So I would say that they are out there. Beacon technology, Bluetooth Low Energy are definitely some areas where that field is kind of really, really starting to grow. It's all about consistency. Can you consistently repeat those results? And again, with GPS, you might be 8, 10 feet out, and if you've got a roof on you, it might change. But people are solving those problems. And if you think about beacons, for instance, just try to think about 2 years. It's probably going to be the thing because people are going to refine it well enough. So I know, again, retail is super hot on the whole beacon technology, trying to figure out how they can use it.
Looks like it's kind of a chicken or the egg problem, right?
I would start designing for the technology to be available now, because it's those first players that figure it out. And if you have the idea and you start going, and then you can just kind of, you know, again, the jet is flying over. If you can just fly right up to it and be one of those first ones to jump in the game, then you're gonna, if you think the technology will get there, it's the point. It will get there at some point.
And that's exactly what we're doing in next generation 911. So our company's involved in some efforts of setting standards for next generation 911, and indoor location technology is huge for that. Being able to take a building and decompose it into floors, units, and rooms in a 3D space and know where all of it is.
Sure.
In a structure like that.
Yeah.
Is hugely important. So the FCC recognizes that, and they're working on setting standards for indoor location accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
May not have ubiquitous tech that can do that in a consistent, repeatable way across all buildings yet, but as you said, it's going to get there.
Yeah.
So let's start building the standards now, start building products on the standards, so when that technology arrives, we're out of the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. For the entrepreneurs in the room, that's how you need to be thinking. These technologies will be there. How can you help? How can you get involved right now? How can you start building an architecture? And it's, again, the Wild West. We know, I'm just giving you some ideas of some trends that might be happening out there, but you guys can go do any of this stuff yourself. You know, FCC, great way to, is that what you said, FCC? So great way to help leverage what's going on with those trends. Once you get big organizations behind it, again, there's just, it's more credibility to that technology or that need. Any other questions, thoughts, cool technologies, ideas? All right. Some final thoughts. Again, the future is digital, and digital means a million different things, but I think that the environment, the way we interact with, whether it's a car, whether it's a retailer, whether it's my home, my kegs, my fridge, Menards, whatever, there really is a ton of opportunity out there. And if you're a developer or if you're a product designer or if you're just interested in this stuff in general. I'm all about utility. It has to provide utility. If you're doing something for cool sales, kitschy stuff, it's not going to work. I'm all about utility. Make sure that whatever you're designing has some sort of benefit. Even if you're in a sales and marketing department, the future is all about quid pro quo. If I do something for you, if I buy your stuff, you're going to have to do something for me. So create, with beacon technology, with home automation, whatever, create some sort of utility, and it'll really help contribute to building our digital ecosystem. Here's my blog if you're interested in downloading the slides here today or any other information that I might put out there on digital or entrepreneurship, leadership, et cetera. Thank you.